Shame. Oh my God. It's hardly the sexiest or most entertaining thing to talk about. But like anal sex, I'll talk about anything at the dinner table or in front of you here tonight. Indeed, no one particularly wants to talk about shame at all, even me. But what compelled me to write this for you tonight was a need for me to share part of my own journey of discovery and healing of my own shame. Accelerated by my training in personal therapy and as part of professional practice, what has become clear to me is that we cannot fully inhabit our true authenticity and live our best lives, sexually or otherwise, if we do not address our shame. This is a big statement to make, I know. Yet in just 3 months, it has completely changed the way I work as a somatic sex therapist. And I'd like to share a little of that with you this evening. Shame, it's universal, right? Most of us know that feeling when your heart pounds, your face flushes, you get sweaty palms, you feel some nausea or churning in your stomach, some bathroom urgency even, or feel the urge to hide or run, or wanting the ground to open up and swallow you. Well, all of that is happening as a shame response to a perceived threat, because shame is hardwired into our nervous system, into our survival reflexes. It's this sense of shame, it's so much more than just an emotion. You know that feeling when you step off a pavement without seeing the car coming towards you? When your body's survival mechanism, it kicks in and jolts you into action to avoid injury or death, and you survive the danger. And you know that feeling when something happens and you feel ashamed or embarrassed? Well, the face flushes and the stomach churning, etc., is the exact same survival response that saves you from the car, except it's responding to a different kind of threat, and that's the threat of feeling something uncomfortable or the exposure of our vulnerabilities. By vulnerabilities, I mean the parts of us that we have hidden away or banished, the parts that tell us, I want to be a singer, but I can't carry a tune. I want a life of travel, but I have to settle down and raise a family. I want to spank her, but violence is wrong. I'm not a boy or a girl. I have to be who I am told to be. I enjoy women's clothes. I must be a man at all times. I want to have sex, but my partner doesn't want to. I'm wrong to feel frustrated and abandoned. I enjoy touching myself. Masturbation is wrong. I'm wrong to feel I mustn't make a noise or make a mess. My genitals aren't the right shape or size. I'm not good enough. I can't perform. My dreams don't matter. Sexual fantasies make me a bad person. Asking for what I want is wrong. It's just easier to be alone on my side of the bed. So we very quickly learn to stay on the pavement to avoid passing traffic, and we very quickly learn to avoid any thought, feeling or situation that will trigger the shame response. Our bodies will react in the same way too whenever we're at risk of feeling the things that make us an outsider or different or not good enough. This can be just as much at work, at home or in the street, or in fact in any situation where there is you and at least one other person. It can be useful to distinguish the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is what you have done. It's repairable by replacing the broken glass or making good on a missed promise or heartfelt apologies. Shame, however, is about who you are. It's fundamental and feels irreparable and unchangeable. To simplify further, guilt is, I made a mistake. Shame is, I am a mistake. Yet shame is present to a greater or lesser degree in all of us. Shame is so deeply ingrained that its effects have changed the way we relate to each other, the way we love, the way we work, behave, and the way we reach out for connection, love, sex, and intimacy. Yet, with all this said, shame is not all bad. Whew. There is a difference between acute shame and chronic shame. When we go against a value that we hold dear to us, to ourselves, we feel a prickle of conscience. You know that feeling of, I really shouldn't do this? Well, when I feel this kind of shame, it helps me to stay in integrity with my chosen rules, my sense of self, and helps me maintain my self-respect. And I feel good about myself because of it. This is acute, healthy shame. Chronic shame, or toxic shame, is at its core a feeling of being unlovable. Here, our shame can be defined as feelings of being unacceptable, defective, inadequate, and worthless, and is often accompanied by feelings of loneliness, isolation, desperation, and the urge to disappear. Here, I might reach out to a friend or lover for connection and they say no, but I don't just hear that no from a place of, they're busy or they're tired or needing to take care of themselves. But in my invulnerability of asking for my need for contact, I then believe that I was wrong or stupid. Not only to ask for what I wanted and be rejected, but now I have to make my needs smaller or wrong. I just shouldn't have asked in the first place. It may be so painful for me to hear a no that I stop asking, suppressing my needs, and withdrawing. Shame is not just an individual thing that just happens in isolation. While we feel it in ourselves, it's created between people in relationships. Shame begins in infancy when we reach towards caregivers for our needs to be met, and when they're not met, or are unwelcomed or denied, we have to adapt to survive. We begin to adjust our need and our behaviour. We begin to hide our needs so that we don't risk disapproval, rejection, or abandonment. We form beliefs that our needs are wrong, and even that we're wrong to have them. And then we develop shame as the protective layer that stops us even feeling our needs in the first place. And since the shame process starts at such an early age, we don't even know that pattern is there. It becomes like the background, the foundation to our lives, like wallpaper. It's always there, but we don't notice how it makes us feel. Given this lack of awareness and the excruciating experience of feeling shame, it's quite natural to want to hide it so well that we can't feel it, and more to the point, others can't see it. And so we develop unconscious strategies to hide our shame and the vulnerabilities underneath. Perfectionism, deflection, rage, blame, control, withdrawal, and contempt are just some. Others that are shame defences that you might not realise include shamelessness. This is an overt defence against feelings of vulnerability in a hostile environment. So this is where we desensitise to our shame to such an extent that we avoid feeling or showing any vulnerability or weakness at all. And over time, this can lead to indifference and disconnection from our compassion, both for ourselves and for others. Narcissism, which includes behaviours such as grandiosity, a pervasive need for admiration, and a lack of empathy. But what is rarely understood is that narcissism is underpinned by chronic, debilitating shame. Vivacity is creating a sense of liveliness and engagement. It's a performance designed to distract from closer scrutiny. It's a form of safety, of hiding in plain sight. Shame can show up in response to praise or admiration. Many of us have had to learn to accept compliments and praise without feeling that squirm of discomfort. That discomfort, that squirm, my friends, that's shame. And shame shows up in not allowing anger, where fear of feeling our shame around this emotion makes us avoid any kind of controversy or conflict. It's a collapse, and we include avoiding our own anger. When shame and what it is protecting is so far out of our awareness, it can easily be triggered by perceived criticism or judgment, leading to extreme reactions such as self-righteousness, anger, blaming someone else or attack, even violence. For people stuck in these patterns, the shame of their overreactions just adds more shame to their already burning insides. There are more examples, but I guess you get the picture. Shame can interrupt our best sex lives in so many ways, primarily in hiding and denying our needs to others. And if we do have awareness of our needs, shame can inhibit us from reaching for our needs to be met. Many people opt instead to try and meet the needs of others, getting their needs for intimacy and connection through the other person's pleasure, rather than their own. All of us are influenced by society and religion and cultural beliefs, as all of these and families have rules around pleasure, sex and relationships. Transgressing those rules, or even wanting to, can be a source of shame. And for others, shame becomes a pain point adapted, often unconsciously, into fetish or troublesome turn-ons. Most frequently, in my practice, I see people who are crippled by the shame of sexual inexperience, sexual dysfunction, concerns around performance, body image issues, and difficulty getting their essential needs for connection, love, and intimacy met. And one of the fundamental issues that needs to be worked on with all of these is shame. By asking the question, who would you be in your life and in your sexuality if you could be free of chronic shame? Shame was created in our early relationships with caregivers. It is deepened when we feel alone and isolated, and can only be undone or eased in relationship. The undoing of shame begins with a journey to discover and recognise the vulnerable parts of us that for survival we have had to hide, using shame as the guard dog to keep ourselves and others away. I know from my own experience and the experiences of many of my clients that this is a journey not easy to take. But within a safe, stable and supportive relationship with a partner or a therapist or a sexological bodyworker or peer or group therapy, we can find the courage to move through the shame, to uncover our authentic selves, to find more ease, forgiveness and self-acceptance, moving through the shame into erotic and personal authenticity and freedom. It's an ongoing journey for all of us. And contrary to what our shame tells us, I want you to know that I am and you are not alone. Thank you.